Part 12. The Victory at Sea. The result of the blockade, the convoy system and additional anti-submarine measures was what Admiral Sims called the Victory at Sea. With complete command of the sea, supplies and troops continued to flow into Europe from North America. The Allies had won the first battle at the Atlantic, even though, by the end of the war, the Germans had more U-boats than ever. By the 19th of October 1918, the Allied advance on land had liberated the U-boats' bases in Belgium. On the 24th of October, all German U-boats were ordered to return to their home ports. The same day, Admiral Scheer ordered the High Seas Fleet to make a final challenge to the Grand Fleet. In response, the sailors mutinied. Not only was the German Navy in a state of mutiny, but by November 1918, the German population, tormented by the blockade, was on the brink of revolution. The German leadership asked for peace. The importance of the naval war is further suggested by the personnel and demands of the British delegation at the Armistice negotiations. Its senior representative was not a general, but the head of the Royal Navy, Admiral Rosslyn Wemyss. He was accompanied by his deputy, Admiral Hope, and his assistant, Captain Marriot. They were there to ensure that not only would the Germans hand over their submarines and their major warships, but also that the blockade would continue until the peace treaty was concluded. Figures and terms. By the end of the war, 12.5 million tons of Allied shipping had been sunk. Over 8 million tons of that total was sunk in the Atlantic war zone. By the end of the war, nearly 17,000 ships had sailed under escort across the Atlantic, with only 1% sunk. The Germans had lost 178 U-boats, but they had to surrender almost exactly the same number. 176 German submarines sailed into Harwich. 70 German warships sailed into the Firth of Forth on the 21st of November 1918 under the guns of the entire Grand Fleet. They were then led to internment in Scapa Flow. Transport ships were allowed to take most of the German crews home. The Grand Fleet had been reinforced by a squadron of American battleships. It was there to see the High Seas Fleet sail into captivity. On the 21st of June the following year, the remaining German crews scuttled their ships. They feared that their ships would be handed over under the terms of the peace treaty. The naval blockade continued until the Treaty of Versailles was signed on the 28th of June 1919. Some imports of food were allowed from March. In honour of their sacrifice during the war, King George V gave the collective title of Merchant Navy to all British registered merchant ships. An ironic note. Ironically, the highest scoring U-boat captain of all time achieved his results under the prize rules. In the Mediterranean, Captain Lieutenant Lothar von Arnold de la Perrière sank nearly all his victims, 194 ships, totaling 454,000 tons, with his 88mm deck gun or explosive charges, mostly in U-35. To search a ship and place charges in it, the U-boat had to compel the crew of the merchantman to carry their boarding party back and forth in the doomed ship's boats.